Hey, how's it going? So in this video, I want to talk to you guys about how a campaign that's been really profitable for us generated $400,000 in revenue in the first few months off of $100,000 in spend, $231,000 in cash, and about $100,000 profit for the business owner. This is a business owner doing about 8 figures a year. We told them, you got Meta working, you're spending a few $1,000s a day, you're generating close to $1 million a month rev on Meta. Let us come in, let us allow us to diversify your business, tack on PPC and LinkedIn to diversify and stabilize your business. I told them I thought that it would be a multiple 6-figure a month channel for you. I didn't think it could be a multiple 7-figure a month channel for you. But nonetheless, you'll sleep better a lot at night and you'll have a lot more stability, predictability for your business if you can start expanding to some of those other. This business was about a 15K AOV, about a 1 month kind of opt-in to close, maybe 6-week sales cycle there. And you can see here, then the first month we more or less broke even just because of the sales cycle. We started halfway into February, okay? And we had a 0.96 contracted ROAS. Second month, it starts getting better, okay? And then finally the sales cycle, the deals that we were advertising from February started showing up in April, okay? So as a marketer, you have to look at the early leading indicators like cost per lead, cost per call, percentage of those calls where they're making an offer. And then you also kind of have to look at the downstream ramifications of that on the business. And then after a while, you start to know like, okay, these are what the early and leading indicators need to be for us to be very healthy. And then this is where the early and leading indicators need to be for us to have a margin for error, okay, on this current funnel, this current conversion process, okay? Now, what's interesting, right, as you can see here, within that third month that we started kind of like the sales cycle started playing out, we're kind of like 6 weeks into that sales cycle, we started figuring things out, targeting, sales process, and so on and so forth. We shot up to 100 grand in $150,000 in revenue in a month as a result of implementing the strategy. We leverage a strategy here at West Channel Media that I pioneered, that I use with a lot of our clients. We're not using it to the full extent with this client, but basically what we're typically doing is we're running LinkedIn lead forms. And the beautiful thing about lead forms is that it's very frictionless, right? We already know that from Meta lead forms, but the quality is much higher on LinkedIn just because of the person who's like on LinkedIn updating their professional resume and being cognizant of that. So much higher quality of a person than that on Meta, just in terms of pure buying power, okay? But you have to pay for it more on that platform. The click-through rate's very low on that platform. People aren't as distracted on that platform. Very, very classy platform. People aren't as distracted. Now, where things get really dangerous and really lethal, okay, and we've been able to make a lot of money from this strategy, is that we are still able to collect a ton of information via the LinkedIn lead forms by asking to autofill their LinkedIn profile URL. Okay, why is that so powerful and profound? Well, on Meta, oftentimes what I have to do is to collect the same information that I could get from a LinkedIn profile, I would have to put them through pages and pages and pages of application questions, driving up my friction, driving up the lead costs, versus this person can autofill their profile URL. They don't have to import it. It's basically just as easy as importing your name, phone number, and email address, all autofilled. And then what the AI does is it's going to scrape that LinkedIn profile URL and then write custom copy speaking about why the offer makes sense given their personal professional reputation. That's where we're seeing the crazy outsized return, because what you're going to find is that LinkedIn as a whole, the responsiveness on the platform via email is significantly higher than on Meta or LinkedIn, where it's a social channel. They're not quite as cognizant to check their emails as they are on those other platforms. On those other platforms, like a social channel, like a Meta, an Instagram, a YouTube, a TikTok, you're going to find that phone calling and SMS are going to drive the majority of appointments from that current lead flow, versus email is so important and so critical. And you can write very high quality emails with quality prompting, attaching Zapier and that LinkedIn lead form strategy to ChatGPT, and then customizing and drafting a very great email. Okay. Now, let's talk about, particularly this is important because a lot of the offers that are going to be doing really well on LinkedIn as a platform are going to be things that are career consulting based, that are professional development related, or just generally like B2B corporate executive type offers. You're either selling to executives, or those are typically where it works best. Where I don't see LinkedIn working that well is if you have a health, wellness, personal development offer. It just doesn't really make sense for that platform. Okay. So let's talk about something that we're seeing here. Okay. So as a whole, our cost per book call has been about $350 since inception. Okay. Now, where I made the mistake is I started scaling aggressively at the beginning of July. I actually pulled back. Our ROAS was about a 0.7 on cash collected. We just had a 20K pay in full that came through today. We were losing money here in July. And this really kind of highlights the fundamental difference between LinkedIn and Meta. With LinkedIn, with Meta, the algorithm is so sophisticated. You can target broad, you can target the world, and the AI is so good. The average user spends so many hours per day on the platform. Every engagement, every click, everything that you're viewing is collecting and aggregating all this data to form a user profile for you to make it easier for us as advertisers to be able to target. LinkedIn is not that. The average user spends 7 minutes per day on LinkedIn, so they don't have the same kind of data. So as marketers, we have to do all the manual bidding and we have to do all the offline conversion tracking in order to have a profitable campaign that is working for it. Okay. Now, what that looks like and what it manifests as, we cannot do broad targeting. We have to create very specific, hyper targeted audiences nuances of what we do want and what we don't want in our LinkedIn audiences that range from 50,000 people up to as high as 1 or 2 million people. Okay. Now, what's very, very interesting is that when you're targeting broad on Facebook and Meta, you're targeting broad, so you have effectively the entire world. If you are spending $1,000 or $2,000 a day, you're tapping into that in-market demographic. Facebook is so brilliant in that smaller marketers generate a higher return because it immediately saturates. Once that you start getting conversions and you're feeding that data back, okay, there's a group of people that have very, very close affinity to the people that just bought. And then if you start to scale to $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a day, you're going into colder and colder and colder audiences that have less affinity towards purchase. Okay. So you are so lucky. A small advertiser has a more advantage than the larger advertiser. You actually have higher quality traffic, higher intent traffic, and a higher return on advertising spend that you do at scale. Okay. All the conversion rates metrics just start to drop at scale. Show rates suffer, close rates suffer, cost per call goes up, and then your overall ROAS just goes down. A beautiful thing about LinkedIn and kind of the challenging thing about LinkedIn is you can find all these separate pockets, all these separate audiences. So what will start to happen is you will find certain job titles, certain job seniority, certain campaigns of those hyper-specific audiences of 100 to 200,000 people. Once you start to scale, you will see positive, even though you're seeing positive or early leading indicate the campaign is still going to be profitable. What you'll find is that you have tapped out that in-market audience and the close rate starts to suffer, as you can see here. So it's very deceptive to us, the media buyer, because we're seeing healthy early leading indicators, but yet the ROAS is dropping. And that's a signal that we need to pivot our messaging, find new pockets of traffic, new hooks. Okay. Sometimes even new hooks will not do it for you because remember, Meta is that it's an AI driven targeting platform. The audiences you're targeting are so large and so broad. If you stay at that $1,000 a day of spend, that in market demographic that you're currently hitting at your currently a daily budget is constantly getting refreshed and the AI is pulling in more people as you're depleting that group of buyers from that group, it's also growing. There's new markets that are meeting that criteria and that market is growing. And they're reaching that point where they're primed and ready to be targeted by your advertisers because you're able to target the whole world. It's able to cross-reference those data points in terms of the targeting from the entire user base of the platform, which is fucking 70% of the planet. LinkedIn is not like that. You will find that after a certain period of time, the gold mine runs out and you are depleting that in-market demographic of those hyper-specific audiences that you are targeting, and you have to move on to other adjacent platforms, which is why LinkedIn is primarily a channel that I think is phenomenal for people that already have Meta cracked and need a source of diversification to stabilize their business. It's not going to be your scale channel. Okay, now we do have some clients that are spending several $1,000s a day, okay, but it's very far and few. Okay, so I think that's everything that I just wanted to share with you guys today. Okay, on Meta, what's happening is if I'm seeing a drop in close rates, okay, if I'm seeing a drop in close rates, it's typically because I'm scaling into those colder and colder traffics that have less intent. And if I'm seeing early indicators of fatigue, all I need to do is refresh the creative. It's always a creative issue. I need to create more high quality creatives with more high quality spokespeople to capture wider and wider pockets of traffic. Because remember, different advertisements capture different segments of the market. That's how I'm scaling. I'm scaling by the creative. LinkedIn, it's not that at all. LinkedIn, I'm scaling by the media buying and I'm scaling horizontally to different audiences. And I spend a ton of time doing manual bidding and media buying work. My job as a LinkedIn media buyer in 2025 is the same as my job as a Meta media buyer in 2017. I've been running ads since close to 2017. It's been close to a decade. Okay. So that's kind of what we're noticing. Okay. We had to really take a deep dive into this business and we had to start listening to call recordings when we're seeing these close rates start to drop. We listened to 52 call recordings, okay, this month, try and diagnose the issue. And we think it could be a sign that we're depleting that in-market demographic, but it's not quite statistically significant yet. So we need to give it a little bit more time. We're not too far deviated from the mean of 15% average close rate. Okay. But it's definitely concerning and it's definitely something that I'm keeping eye on. So that's pretty much everything that I'm thinking about when I'm going through the platform, when I'm going through my daily work. I just want to kind of give you guys an idea on positives, the negatives, what's happening, how we think about the different platforms. But just remember with Meta, if you start to see fatigue or early leading indicators, creative issue, okay? With LinkedIn, however, it could be a sign that you have saturated that audience and you need to start testing and iterating that audience because you may have depleted at least the in-market demographics of that audience. Scale back for a manual bid, okay? If you're using a manual bid, our cost cap bidding strategy. We don't really reveal that publicly, our bidding strategy, but you need to scale that back, lower your overall daily scale on that audience, give yourself a larger margin for error. So we are pulling back everything tremendously right now. The lead cost has dropped quite a bit. That's going to give us a margin for error. Even if our hypothesis is correct, we have depleted that in-market demographic. The pullbacks that we're making right now, we've cut the cost per lead in half by about 50%, should be enough. The earnings per lead is such that we'll have a margin for error. This campaign will be profitable because right now we're probably going to end the month at break even or quite a loss. Now, the contracted revenue does pay out rather consistently. Okay, we collect about 80% of the outstanding accounts receivable for this account. It basically almost acts like a recurring, predictable, stable business just via even though it is technically a lump sum high ticket business, so just because of the consistency of the installments and the frequency at which these people are paying and the consistency for this CSM team, how they're able to engineer wins, activate the customer and keep them around and keep them sticking to their payment plan for quite some time. So kudos to the business owner for taking care of that. We feel really good about that when we see healthy NPS scores, low refund rates, high completion rates of their payment plans. That's all a sign to us that we're marketing an ethical product here and that the business owner is doing a great job operating. So anyway, hope that was helpful. Hope this was, if you're doing more than 100 grand a month in revenue. Okay, I have a website here where I kind of share my background, everything that I've done as a marketer over the last 10 years of my life. Okay, I was on NDA for a long period of time. I went in-house for a period of time, so I kept it, private for quite some time. But so now I'm in a phase where I want to document publicly and share the lessons and the learnings of everything that I'm going through. You can see here we have Google Ads case studies, LinkedIn Ads case studies, Meta Ad case studies. We work with some of the biggest personal brands, coaches, consultants in the entire world, software companies that have raised hundreds of millions of dollars, billion-dollar fund managers. We've literally done it all. Okay, paid ads rather, and we like to partner with very unique businesses. We don't really want to work with more than 10 at any given time. We want to scale vertically, not horizontally. There's a lot of reasons for that, but that's kind of our business in a nutshell. These are some pretty, heavy hitters. If you're in our industry, you know who they are. They are sharing their experience, what it was like working with me, working with some of the people on my team here. I have a lean team here, about 3 media buyers, 2 or 3 creative people, an executive assistant, and now obviously we have, a bunch of sales managers that handle the conversion aspect for some of the call funnels that we're running across our different accounts. But yeah, that's pretty much everything on me. If you're making more than 100 grand a month, book a call for our done for you agency. Making less than 100 grand a month, we have consulting done with you options where I can try and help you get to 100K a month where you might be a good fit for our agency. But hope this was helpful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks so much. Bye.